Welcome to the Misty Rambles, your mystical getaway into the realm of spirituality, crystals, the paranormal, and intriguing conspiracy theories. We are your hosts, Nicole and Corey, guiding you through the veils of the unknown, where we embark on a journey of discovery and wonder.
Join us as we delve into the hidden depths of ancient wisdom, exploring the power of crystals, unlocking the secrets of the universe, and unraveling the phenomena that surrounds us. From the whispers of the spirits to the mind-bending mysteries that challenge conventional beliefs, we dive headfirst into the uncharted territories of the metaphysical.
Each episode will gather around the digital campfire, sharing captivating stories and thought-provoking discussions that will leave you questioning reality itself. Whether you're a seasoned truth seeker or a curious skeptic, the Misty Rambles is your haven for expanding your consciousness and embracing the realms beyond our everyday existence.
So grab your favourite crystal, light a soothing incense, and open your mind to the extraordinary. It's time to embark on an adventure like no other. Welcome to
the Misty Rambles. Welcome to another episode of the Misty Rambles. Today we will be covering Sacred Ireland. So myself and Corey actually are really excited about this episode.
I'm so excited for this.
But we have a few different sites chosen for today, so let's just get straight into it.
Straight in, yeah.
Do you want to kick off with the first one?
Yeah, I'll start.
Okay. I'm curious what you've chosen.
Which one would I go with? That's the thing, is I don't know which one to pick.
Well,
we'll go with this one. So, The first one I have is Fornox.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Yeah.
Okay,
this is. I love this one. I only found it this year and I love it.
Okay, I've actually been.
I've been as well.
Yeah. Okay, go on. Do tell me.
So when I went, I was photographing it for my college project, and I was trying to find places, and I found it, and I was like, it was like, you can get the key, and I was like, sound, I'll go down and get the key.
Unreal.
So I then went, found a woman's house. It was so hard to find a house. It was like at the crossroads, take the first right, and then it's 9 houses down on the left, and I was like, okay, that's a lot of instructions. So then I found her air code, and I was like, easier.
Okay.
So went down, got the key, and went in, and it was amazing. I had the whole place to myself, so it was just perfect.
Oh my god, you're so lucky. Like, I can't say many people who actually say that they've had a place to themselves, like especially like a sacred site or like that, but yeah. Go on.
When I went in, it was like opening up the door myself and all, and I was like, this is just amazing. So I started walking in, and then you just feel the atmosphere in it, and I was like, this is incredible. And I spent 3 hours, I'd say, inside of a photograph and everything, and just sitting there and being in that space was just amazing. So Fornox is a small Neolithic burial mound in County Meath. The mound is part of a complex of small sites in the area. So there's Fornox 1, Fornox 2 and Fornox 3. They're all within, I'd say, like 20 metres of each other.
They are very close.
The main one is Fornox 1, and that's the one I love. But they're also really significant to Newgrange. They're all...
That's crazy, but go on. Continue.
So they're all aligned with the axis of the winter solstice sunrise from Newgrange. So then, strangely, it's not visible from Newgrange itself.
Okay.
Which is something that I actually thought it would have been because of how linked they are.
Mm-hmm.
It's thought that it was built in circa 3000 BC, so that is around 5,000 years ago.
Okay.
Which I think is incredible. And it is a very large chamber, but a very short passage to it. Like, it's probably only, I'd say, 10 metres, and then you're actually inside the burial chamber. So the name Fornox comes from the Irish Fur Knock, which means the cold hills, and I realised that when I was there because it was freezing cold when I got there, and it was like the middle of like that kind of heat wave kind of time that we had, and it's really windy up there as well, is what I found.
Right.
Like when I got there, the walk up to it is like, it was grand, you're surrounded by the fields, and then you get to where the mound is, and it's just wind, just complete wind. So then the mound was only excavated along with the nearby site 2 in the 1950s by P.J. Hartnett, and the site was reconstructed then with a concrete domed roof, although no roof of the original structure was ever found. So
right. Well, I suppose when you think about it, like, a lot of these sacred sites wouldn't have had any remains. If you think about it,
and then you're also thinking it was 5,000 years ago, so someone probably took that at some point and was like, oh, timber or whatever.
Yeah, well, wouldn't have been like decomposed. Usually wood
probably,
would just like
just rots away.
Yeah.
So then there's a number of individuals were interred in Fort Knox. So when they excavated it, they found deposits of cremated and inhumed remains found in both passages and the entrance going in, so the main little walkway in, they found remains there. And then there are so many caravans. The caravans I love so much. I absolutely love them. So you could tell I'm so happy talking about this. There's zigzags, and there's the first ever drawing of a smiley face.
What?
I know, it's mad. It is mad.
I never knew that.
So as you walk in, the smiley face would be on your left.
Okay.
And it's actually really hard to see it. Like when I went in, I had candles absolutely everywhere. I had the entire place lit up with candles.
Okay.
And I was like dotting them the whole way around every little structure.
Yeah.
And then I found this one and I was like, this is like a really weird looking one. And then when I put like my torch up to it, and you couldn't even see it with the torch because it was actually too bright on it.
Right.
So then I lit the candles, and then you just see this like 2 eyes, a little nose, and then a smiley face.
That's incredible.
It's amazing. And like it survived so long, and that was my favourite piece about it. I loved the zigzags, but the smiley face, I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. So then Fort Knox Chamber is 41.92 square metres in area, which is actually a lot bigger than Newgrange. So Newgrange is only 16.5. So it's massive compared to Newgrange.
Okay.
Nout East is 20 square metres and Doubt is 15. So it's the biggest one within that kind of area.
Okay.
And then when they were excavating it, they found a post hole in the centre of the chamber floor, which would have indicated that there would have been a wooden roof on this structure. So there would have been the hole, and then obviously like latted roof, or not latted. Is it latted? Yeah.
I suppose it would be, yeah.
And then some believe the roof was made of a tarpaulin of cowhide or similar material, which would make sense because that's kind of all they really would have had back then, would have been the cowhide. Others believe that it was never roofed, and that's really all the kind of history I have to it. But when I was there, it was such an amazing experience, just being like inside of this burial mound, and I loved it because you had no time restraint. So like, as long as you get the key back to her for 6 o'clock, that's all that matters. Whereas like you go to Newgrange and you're on that kind of limited tour, you only get a certain amount of time, you can't take pictures and all, and then being in here, it was just like, just give the key back.
It's a free will thing.
Yeah.
Basically, you had the freedom to actually explore a site that you knew was a settlement.
Yeah, and just being in it like by myself as well. But like, it's grand visiting all these other places, but I love when it's only me there. Yeah. Sounds selfish, but I'm like,
no,
I'd rather it.
Totally get it. Like Newgrange actually once upon a time was free of that. Like it didn't always have this tour guide, and you could just go visit it. Like I suppose that's what I found so interesting about what you were talking about, was that you were saying, oh, this is what did you say, it was linked to Newgrange? Yeah,
it was in the same kind of area.
Region, sorry, yes. And that was actually my first topic.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh my God, that's so crazy that you chose that one. But my parents, like years ago, they have a photo of them outside before they restructured.
I remember that your mum saying that to me.
Yeah, so it just, like, it looks like a grassy mound, like a really rough grassy mound. And essentially, sorry, just checking something here. Essentially, they, like, it just shows them obviously looking young as hell in their 20s, I think, just outside the front passage tomb of Newgrange, and it just looks so much more authentic to like the way it is now. Obviously when you see Newgrange for yourself, it's completely spectacular, but that's what I was like, it used to be like that. Yeah, but just
seeing it like raw back before it was ever touched by anyone, or like, it's great that they have maintained these sites and that they are doing stuff.
Absolutely.
Like I know at the minute there is a petition about Loughroe, about how it's not being looked after, and that the roof of Loughroe is actually caving in.
I didn't know about
that. And if you go up to Loughroe now and you go to the main passage, there's a big post in the middle of the tomb holding the entire thing up.
Okay.
But there's a whole petition about how it's not being looked after by the authorities, and that there's money that's being allocated to it, but they're not doing anything with it, kind of thing. I don't want to get into that too much, but like, I am happy that these sites are being looked after, because
they're majorly looked after, because like they deserve the respect that, you know, it's part of our history at the end of the day. And like, I suppose that's kind of another reason why we chose this topic, is because it's in our blood. Like, this is part of our our culture, part of our history, and I think people need to be reminded of where we stem from.
Yeah.
And even though we did have travellers and visitors that came to Ireland and they have settled here, it's still part of our ancestral lineage, essentially, that, you know, these people were part of our bloodline, potentially, in some cases, like, you know. But from being there, like you were saying, the experience, was there anything else from that experience being there that you picked up on?
I would say just the feeling of, like, being inside of this burial mound, essentially.
Creepy,
and, like,
in a way.
I walked around it, and I was just, like, I was looking into everything, and, like, I had the torch out, and I was, like, inspecting all the rocks and all this, because I love rocks. And,
I love rocks. I just love it.
So I was just, like, going around, like, looking at everything, and I just, even at the end, I, like, took time, and I was just sitting down, and I was like, this is just incredible that you can go inside of these places and see what life was like back then for these people, because, like, we have no idea what they were doing in these sites or what they were essentially really used for. Like, we have information, obviously, but we don't know how accurate or how well this information has been passed down through all the years.
Absolutely, and that goes for everything, really, when you think about it. Like, any form of history across the world, we don't know everything, and of course history can be lost as well, like, you know. And I think when it comes to anyone who's a historian or an archaeologist, they will agree with that. Like, there is history that has been lost, and they're nearly trying to refine these missing links.
And I think that's what it's all about, is just finding that link. And then I think if everything gets a link, then we're bound to figure out what these sites were actually used for, because some say they were burial places, some say they were, like, meeting places for the wealthy families, or could they, like, how are they built even? Like, a lot of them are aligned with the stars and the sun and the moon, and I'm like, how, like, I can't even figure out my way from Dublin to Cavan without using Google Maps, and it's like, these were then able to just be like, no, you need to move that, Billy, move that stone slightly over there, perfect. And it's like, how did they figure all this out? And, like, it was obviously their way of aligning everything with, the, like, a calendar in a way, that, like, oh, the sun rises now, it's Tuesday, it's this time, and it's just, I find it amazing.
And was that, like, is that what's linked to that site?
Yeah, so I have it wrote down. It does not point to a sunrise or intended a moonrise, so an astronomical function would probably have been involved with the stars. So it was probably linked in some way with stars when they were building this one. But I know, like, Newgrange, I think, wasn't that the sun or the moon?
I'll get to that.
I think. I know I'm jumping ahead, but I think that's what that was.
I'll get to that. So yeah, that's your findings on that.
Yeah,
obviously.
that's Fort Knox.
So Newgrange is obviously my first chosen site for Sacred Ireland, and I suppose I'm from County Meath, so Meath for me is like a really special county, and it's not because I'm from it. I'm not really proud to be
Tourism
from Meath,
Ireland.
but I find that the history in Meath is like no other, in my opinion. Like, you have the Hill of Tara, you have Newgrange, you have Steve Bray, you've got Fort Knox. Like, there's so many.
Hundreds of them.
There's so many in Meath alone that is like, wow, what's going on here? Why is this such a hot spot? Which is kind of one of my questions as well. But yeah, so Newgrange is my first chosen topic, and it happens to be 6 centuries older than the oldest pyramid in Egypt.
That's amazing.
So this is also 7 years older than the stone circle in Stonehenge. So that just kind of that kind of just puts a perspective on how old this is. And, like, even though Ireland is such a small country, we have so much hidden history there,
way too much,
that no one is actually acknowledging. Obviously there's historians and archaeologists that acknowledge this, but I'm like, whoa. I think everyone can say that they've been to Newgrange or have seen photos of Newgrange. And there is something very, like, incredibly eerie about it, knowing, like, what was once here and what happened here. So what I found was Newgrange was obviously built around 3200 BC, and it was also known as Bryn which everyone knows, I'm sure, anyway. And then, as well as that, as I said, we've all had the experience to see this beautiful site for ourselves. But here's some of the other things that we mightn't know. So the passage tomb is located in County Meath, and it consists of 200 tons, or 200,000 tons, sorry to be mistaken, of materials that has a footprint of over an acre. So the main question that remains to this day is, who are the builders of this phenomenal structure? And we all question that. We've been to the tour, or we've read articles on it, or even maybe seen a video on Newgrange. I know Ancient Aliens even covered it, and they still can't navigate who built this place. So that was kind of really interesting to me, which is why I chose it. So some say the potential of this building, it could have been Vikings, I was like, Egyptians, Romans, but there's no truth to back up these claims. Now, it has been found that they found Roman coins in Newgrange, but that's not to say that it matches with the dates, so
Yeah.
I think that was maybe later on.
Later on, there was obviously something that happened there.
Romans, I think, came and they may have had, or maybe they were traded, and when people were coming to Ireland, they may have lost these coins, or maybe they came across the site themselves and decided to leave them as kind of
like a gift or something.
Yeah, an offering.
An
That's
offering,
the word
yeah.
I was looking for, and I'd say that's kind of what that they saw it from. So I just thinking back, like, I mean, there was obviously something very phenomenal about this site,
Yeah.
even back then, to witness it. So it was actually discovered in 1699 by a man called Charles Campbell, to which he rediscovered the place, obviously, and it was an overground mound of stones. So in these early days of investigation, the surveyors had recorded many different measurements, but they had claimed to seen a large stone shaped like a pyramid, but it was never seen since. Okay, so that's where I was kind of like, we look at Newgrange and we see it as this mound,
Yeah.
but we don't see any point.
No.
So they're saying now that the original structure had a pointed stone on top, and it's not there now.
It's not there now, yeah.
And I think back to the connection with the stars in the universe, and how even in spirituality nowadays, that it's kind of like emphasised that the power of the pyramid is that for you to connect to unity of the energy to
Yeah.
the universe. It's like pyramid, essentially. It's like two pyramids on top of
Like
each other.
as above, so below kind of thing.
Exactly. And that's what the power was all about. So we don't know where that's gone. That was a bit interesting anyway. It's also said that the structure today is not as tall as the original structure that was found. And as well as that, they knew from the discovery of Newgrange that it held more than it being this large structure. So it was actually, what they believed, it was created for greater religious significance. So this was more than just this sacred site that was aligned to the moon and the stars, and this is where it kind of gets interesting. So it was named the Cave of the Sun, for being known of the rising sun of the winter solstice, which we all know it as. So every winter solstice, that the main chamber would flood with the light of the sun for approximately 17 minutes apparently. Now obviously we're not that lucky every year because of the clouds. Go down to Ireland with your trusty weather.
You might get like 17 seconds maybe.
Yeah, like I don't think it's been recorded over the last few years to actually have sun inside it. But it wasn't just to worship the sun, but it was also for the cult of the dead. That's actually the reason behind it. So it was discovered in a Dublin-based study that in 2020, this is only a few years ago now, that the remains of a man was analysed to find that his parents were brother and sister. But then I also read another article and it said that it could have been a parent and a child.
Yeah.
So there was actually incest within this settlement, okay? So the leading researchers then had to believe that there was an incestuous union, and further leading to believe that they had been connected to a fertility cult.
Oh, wow.
So another thing that I had read was that the whole structure of Newgrange was to recreate the visual of a woman's organ. I won't, like, not the womb, but the other part that we call it. And we're not gonna say what that is because I think everyone knows what that is. But it kind of gets a bit weirder then. It's like, okay, right, we'll get to that. So although Newgrange is also connected to the sun, it is also connected to the moon and even Venus. So the moon also lights up the chamber, and so does the planet Venus when it appears in the sky. Then they were saying that how this structure was built, so no one was able to actually figure out how the stones got from... They were actually... Okay, this famous site happens to have 97 curbstones, okay? Large curbstones. And they were brought from the Wicklow Mountains and County Down. So the Wicklow Mountains from Newgrange is 70 miles away, and County Down from Newgrange is 67 miles away. So everyone's like, how could, even if there was hundreds of settlers...
It definitely wasn't a tractor and trailer.
Like, how could they have gotten all of these curbstones from A to B? It's just, it makes no sense. And then for them to not only do that, it's like, how did they know how to build this structure? How did they know how to align the stars and the moon? Essentially all, as you said before, calendar based and astrological based. So for me, I was like, there's obviously some sort of curiosity here within these settlers that they knew that they had to worship the sun, stars and the moon. I thought paganism straight away. But then the further I kind of looked into it, I was like, I think this runs even deeper. I think it's even more than this. So That's where it gets even more interesting. So they don't know how long it took them to build this structure whatsoever. They can't even guesstimate it because they're like, we don't know. It doesn't add up. So then the other thing was the decorative stone that we all know Newgrange has, like the spirals, the swirls, and they didn't know if it was to perform a function or if they were used for astronomical or even religious significance. But they were also kind of wondering why some of them were deliberately hidden. So that to me was like, are they trying to give us a message here for us to remember or to decipher?
And no one's probably ever figured out like why they were hidden or anything.
Like, I mean, obviously there's some people, and like they're born to be researching all of these sites across Ireland, even abroad, and some people still can't figure out what they mean. Obviously they've discovered quite a lot, but they still don't know what's happening and what has
just mad.
And then the other thing was the scriptures that had been placed over many ancient sites across the world is also tied to Newgrange. So there's also like the likes of, what was it? It was like certain symbols. It was like, again, like zigzags.
Yeah.
They link back to other sites across the world. So then that's where it ties back to more than just Ireland.
Yeah.
There was other
it's like a worldwide kind of thing.
Excuse me. There was other settlements that actually had the same belief, or they were trying to discover the same findings within the universe or within the outer space. It's incredible. So the other thing, and this one I was like, I got really excited. It's believed that not only the Sun, Moon and Venus are associated with Newgrange, but the star Sirius A, because it also shines into the passage chamber, and it was created to be aligned with the passage chamber. So everyone was like, oh, it was created to be aligned with the Sun, but in fact it was actually also created to be aligned with Sirius A. But it was actually said that there was an ancient god that came to Earth, and he had created all of these infamous sites, such as Newgrange. But they don't know what the reasoning is. So the name of this god was called Dagda, and there's other forms of this name being used all across the world. And they were saying there's actually no coincidence in this. So they believe that there was another ancient civilization across the world, and this cult, this tribe, are still actually, I want to say, worshipping this god, this ancient god, but they call him Dagda. So it's not Dagda, it's Dagda.
Yeah.
But it's still, that pronunciation is very linked. But they worshipped star Sirius B. And then the Tuatha De Danann, was a renowned fairy race.
Yeah.
And we all know that in Ireland, as like the fairies being in Ireland and the leprechauns being in Ireland. But they arrived mysteriously in Ireland many thousand years ago, and the supreme deity, was Dagda, and it was said that he lived in Newgrange.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is it something to do with the Tuatha De Danann? Because I remember researching that ages ago, and it being Dagda was the god of the fairies, in a way. And that when you were saying that, I was like, this sounds like it's what I'm thinking of. But then I was like, maybe it's not. And then when you said it, I was like, oh wow, it is the exact same.
It's the exact same as that, which I find so fascinating. Like, of all of what we know about Newgrange, I had never heard of this before.
Yeah.
And I've heard of the fairy race. I've never heard of Dagda before. And when I read about that, I was like, what is this? Like, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And like, for him to come down, leave this site, not only one but many across Ireland and across the world, and then maybe potentially go back to his planet, which is Sirius A or B. That to me was like, okay, I'm going to leave them something here, but they're going to have to try and figure it out. And
almost like a conspiracy theory.
Nearly. But I was like, what is going on? Like, I just thought it was fascinating to think this could be what happened. Like, that we actually had an ancient civilization to the point where it was actually alien that landed on Earth. That makes sense to me. Yeah. Partially. Obviously we need more facts to back that up. But to me, I was like, that would link. And then for them to be like, it's almost like he was trying to teach them the power of the stars, where the sun will be at a certain point in the year, where the moon will be at a certain point in the year, and how you'll be able to know what day and time it is. And
it's just amazing when you actually think about it, and you're like, if this is what they were doing, like how advanced they really were, that they were like, we'll build this here and this is going to be your calendar. And it's like, when you think about that, you're like, oh my god, like how, like 5,000 years ago, how did they even like think this way?
And how important it was for them for fertility reasons, like even for them to, like, I don't know, back in the day with the likes of incest, maybe they had no choice but to be
Yeah.
doing that. But then at the same time, I'm also like that. It was almost like it made them more important from what I was reading. They were like of royal blood.
Yeah.
If they were incest, I was like, oh my god. And then you just think of the royals today, and you're kind of like, there is rumours of them being incest as well. So I'm like, there's some weird kind of tie
connection here.
Mad tie. But yeah, that's my little story on Newgrange.
I love Newgrange.
Yeah. Fabulous site. For anyone that hasn't been, you gotta go. You
definitely have to go. And even I go there at sunset, and like I just sit on the wall and just watch the sunset, and I'm like, this is just incredible. It's different. It's a different type of energy there, and you can actually feel it as soon as you walk on that grass. Yeah. It's like, it's just like, you know, whoa. Something. It's just really powerful. Yeah. Okay, Corey. So tell me about your next adventure. My next place is Slieve Gullion. Oh, I don't know if you've heard of this. I have, of course. Well, that's good. So it's the southern cairn on Slieve Gullion. So Slieve Gullion is located in County Armagh, and it's actually a mountain. But on the top of it there is 2 cairns and a lake. The lake is very important to the story. Okay. So the southern tomb at Slieve Gullion is at 570 metres above sea level, which is in fact the highest of such tomb in Ireland and England. So it's the highest tomb. The passage tomb is also known as the Kylach Bearer's house. I'm not sure if you're aware of the story of Loughcrew. Oh, of course I am. But that's the Kylach Bearer is also associated with that, so that's the witch. So this tomb was said to be her house. So this is where the lake kind of comes in. I think I did read something about that. Yeah. Okay. You probably would have. Yeah. So it was said to be built by Neolithic, which was the New Stone Age people. Possibly to honour their ancestors and be closer to their gods. Okay. So even that kind of links to what you were saying about Newgrange. Yeah, being closer to their gods that they would have believed in. Majorly. The passage aligns with the setting sun on the winter solstice, which is the shortest day of the year, and so that the sun sets and shines the light down the passage and it lights up the very back chamber. You can actually get inside of this one as well. It's a squeeze and a half to get in. Like you climb up this mountain, then you see this and you're like, brilliant, and it's just like you have to crawl across all the rock and you're just jutting your body in and out. Yeah, it's not too bad. Like once you actually get inside of it, it's just that kind of like first initial kind of crawl in, because you have to be nearly on your belly going into it. I would not like that. I'm like, would be so bad with like claustrophobia and like that. So but then once you're inside, it opens up and it's like big enough to stand up in. Okay. But then you have to get out. Yeah, getting out isn't the worst. It's slightly easier because you kind of grab hold of the stones. Okay. So it dates from around 3,500 to 2,900 BC. So again, around 5,000 years old, which is incredible. It consists of a circular cairn of 30 metres in diameter and 4 metres high, with a curb of massive but undecorated stones. So there was actually no decorated stones found here. Okay. Which I thought was very unusual, because like all the other places there was always some sort of decorated stone that was found, but this had none, and I was like, why? Or where? Or is it still there but they just haven't found it yet? So then a slight indentation on the southwest marks the entrance to a short lintel passage which leads to an octagonal, originally corbelled chamber. They were a lot of big words. You done it. I done it. I got there. My English teachers will be so proud of me. So it was documented and investigated in 1789. So it was actually a long time from when it was there to when they actually were like, what is it? What could be here? And when the chamber was opened by locals, they were actually searching for the old lady or the Kylach Bearer, because it was said to be her house. But only a few human bones were ever found inside of it. So then, not surprisingly, in 1961 there was another excavation done, and the chamber was actually really badly damaged during this one. Right. And it being disturbed, and they only found a couple of small little pieces, flint, scraper, arrow's head, and 2 stone basins, which were commonly found throughout these. Like nearly all the sites had these stone basins found, and the stone basin is actually now housed in the Armagh County Museum. So they were actually able to preserve this, and it's now on display in the museum, which I love. I love that. So then it plays a huge role in folk stories. So it was said to be Finn McCool's like summer getaway kind of thing, so he'd always go here during the summer.
Okay.
And one of the most well-known stories is with the Kyle Beara, and it is said that the Kyle Beara enticed Fionn to go swim in this magical lake on top of the mountain, which was the lake I mentioned earlier on.
Yeah.
And when he emerged after swimming in the lake, he was an old and weak man. So this lake is cursed. And still to this day, people will not swim in the lake. People will not touch the water in the lake. People won't even go near the edge where the lake is.
Stop.
When I went here, I walked down and I was about to go in for a swim in the lake. And I was like, yeah, cool. But then it was like, there were so many people I couldn't like jump in and stuff.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like something stopped you. Like you felt like you...
Well, something did. I was like ready to go in, and then I was like, I had like my shorts on and on, ready to jump in. And then I think I was like, geez, there's so many people here. I was like, I better not go in. So I kind of didn't really do it. And then I didn't actually know about this story when I was there. And then as I was walking back up, I met these two women, and she was like, did you go for a swim in the lake? And I was like, oh no, I was going to, but there was too many people down there. And she was like, do you not know the story about this lake? And I was like, no. I was like, what is the story? And she was like, I won't even let the kids look at the lake. She was like, it's terrifying. And I was like, did like something happen here recently that I don't know about?
Someone died.
And she was like, no, it was said that the lake's cursed. And she said, if you put your hand into the lake, you'll see how dark the lake is. It's like pitch black when you put your hand into it. And she was like, but that's only because you're in a bog, so it's the bog water. But she said, it's terrifying when you put your hand in and your hand just goes black. You can't see anything, yeah. And she was like, did you go swimming? And I was like, no. And she was like, just good on, you're not going in there. And I was like, oh my god. So then I came home and I researched it, and I was like, I'm so glad I didn't touch that lake.
I'm absolutely amazed by that. I've never heard a story like that before.
It was probably like, when I researched it, I was like, this is such an amazing story. That the fact that people still are like, oh no, I wouldn't go near that lake. Like, don't touch the lake, don't even look at the lake. And it's like, but yet there is people who have swam in the lake and they don't come out as old, weak men. So I'm like, okay, it's grand. But then it's that terrifying thing of, what if?
Yeah, what happens if you get a disease? I don't know, I was going to say something else there. I'm not going to say that. But yeah, like that's, you might get sepsis.
You might.
There you go.
Do not swim in the lake.
Triggered.
So yeah, that was my experience with that place. But I came home then, and when I heard that story, I was like, okay, I want to research more about this site. So when I researched it, I was reading up all the stories about the lake and stuff, and the tomb itself, and I got bored. And when I get bored and I have Google Maps, it's never a good idea, because I could spend hours playing on Google Maps. Sounds sad, but like, I will go on the Street View and I will look at everything. So
wow. Wow. That's you.
You did not know that.
Fun fact about Corey.
Yeah, I play on Google Maps.
But go on, I'm curious.
So I got a lion. You can draw lines on Google Maps.
Oh,
I don't know if you knew this.
I've seen weird things about this, but go on, keep on
So
going.
I drew a line directly from the cairn on Slieve Gullion, the southern cairn, and I followed it down through Mead, and it crosses straight through Lough Crew. Go down Mead. And then it also continues straight into the hill of Uisneach.
Oh yeah.
So each of them three sites is aligned. But then, only last night, I drew a dead straight line, and it intersects each site, each of the tombs. Yeah. Okay. So you'd have Armagh, Slieve Gullion's here, Lough Crew will be here, and say Hill of Uisneach is there. It's just a straight line the whole way. But then I also looked at the Hill of Tara. I was interested to see if anything would be connected there. So the Leofold stone on the Hill of Tara, it's an exact line to the entry point of the cairn. So where you go in, it's exact linked to the stone.
And that just ties into like my next
site.
God.
No, it doesn't.
Which is the Hill of Tara.
Oh my god. How have we done this?
I don't know.
I did not know you picked these.
We didn't plan any of this.
My first site was linked to Newgrange.
Yeah.
And my second site is now linked to the Hill of Tara.
My brain hurts.
Oh my god. We did not plan this, by the way. We did not plan this.
Nope. I was just about to like state that. It was like, just for everyone that's listening, like, and I know you'll be like, oh, this was definitely set up.
It was
really
100% not.
Like every time me and Corey like divide ways for the week,
That's kind of it.
It's like, we'll text each other, but we'll be like, this is our topic for this week, and leave it at that.
Yeah.
We do not talk, because we want to surprise each other with our information, and I'm like, what?
I did not know that you picked a hill of Tara.
Yeah,
that's
Hill of Tara,
amazing.
that's my
but
next
yeah,
one.
it's
Go on, I'll
it's
let you keep on going,
linked
obviously.
exactly. And I found it mad that, like, it could... I was like, oh, it could be a coincidence, but it can't be a coincidence.
No.
That each one is fully connected. And when you think of the story of Loch Crew, it's about the Cailleach Beara, which was the witch, and she flew over and her stones fell.
Aww.
And that's how the Loch Crew was said to be formed, was the Cailleach Beara lost her stones as she was going, and that's where the cairns are now. And
or was it a witch?
Yeah.
Was it an alien?
And then, for people who might know Cavan area, there's Loch on Lay, and that was another one that was said to be...
Never been to it.
That was another one that was said to be the witch's stones fell and dropped them to cairns, or the 3 cairns. I think there's 3 cairns on the site that dropped the stones onto them cairns, which is like, everything seems to be linked with these stories, and I'm just like, this is just incredible. I love it.
I just think it's incredible how nearly every story in Irish history some way links back to one another, and I'm like, how? So it's just incredible. And I just think back to Newgrange and how maybe there was something that came down and it was done purposely, then there could be a little bit of mythology behind that mightn't be all that like fake. It could be true.
I think there's definitely, like, the mythology of these sites I love, because it's not even that it's out there, like, it's far-fetched, it's this could have actually happened.
Know,
it's like, you can't say it didn't happen because you don't know if it did happen or not.
Exactly. It's like any other story that we know, like, including like stories we hear in the Bible, like, you know, things like that. We don't know how all of these are fully true or fake, and it's the same with these stories that we hear in, like, these sacred sites, or even just in general history of Ireland and abroad.
Yeah.
We're like, oh my god, because it's like, you go to Budapest and you'll hear a story about how Dracula, like, camped in Budapest. Like, this is his, like, underground home, and I'm like, what? Like, and then you're thinking, what if there was a Dracula? What if, like, he did actually have, like, a place to stay?
A little house there, summer home.
Who knows? That's just mental. Oh my god. So is that all the information?
That is it. I'll let you go on to the Hill of Tara.
Okay, so the Hill of Tara. Of course, I picked another topic based in County Meath, and the Hill of Tara is actually one of my favourite healing sites in the world. It's not far from where I live. Home base is actually closer than Newgrange, I think, for me. And plus, obviously, you can walk onto the Hill of Tara whenever you want. Yeah. It's not locked up. There's just something really special there. Like, I go there anytime I'm feeling a bit off of myself, and I kind of just, like, leave my troubles behind me. And I've had so many amazing experiences there for myself, where, like, it just kind of makes it my special place, which I'm sure it does for many other people, because every time I go there, there is crowds of people.
Oh, it's always jam-packed.
Goodness, it's amazing, and you feel the energy, and oh my god. But the Hill of Tara is actually the jewel in the crown of the Boyne Valley landscape. Okay, so as this site has been in use for more than 5,000 years as a place of burial and assembly. So it grew to its fame as the legendary site of the ancient High Kings of Ireland, of course. So from its rolling slopes, one can see all the way to the other great sites of the Boyne Valley. So that's including Loch Crew Cairns, the Hill of Slane, Trim Castle, and beyond. So it is like, when you stand up there, it's just that viewpoint. When you go to there's a certain mound. I'm trying to remember the name of it off the top of my head.
The Mound of the Hostages?
No, it's not that one. It's a different one. It's actually further up.
Oh, I don't know the other one.
The Mound of the Hostages is kind of like the first one you meet it. Then there's one that brings you lower, and there's another one that brings up really, really high. That's the one that you'll see your full viewpoint. But that one is obviously good, like a high point. But anyway, from that then, so it's saying that the myth as the residence of the High Kings, but they were saying that there's actually no archaeology that suggests that there was actually permanent residence there. So, like, you're thinking of, like, palaces or castles or whatever, or any sort of structure. There was nothing left behind to say this is where people lived. So people were like, what
could
happened?
Could have been like a meeting point or something.
What happened here? Like, we don't know. We have no idea. But obviously there was many, bodies found underneath the grounds. As I said, it was a burial site. So then there's the legend of Conn of the 100 battles illustrates the importance of Tara, and it tells us how the kingship of Ireland was granted by the other world. So Conn, his druids, and his Feely, which is the poet seers, in their efforts were to protect Ireland from the people of the other world, and it was mounted at the ramparts at Tara. So he stepped on a stone that let out several loud cries. And people say that when you stand with that stone, which is the fertility stone, right? And I instantly, when I thought of that stone, when I saw, it doesn't state it online when you're looking for research, but when I was last there, I remember I was looking at the map, and this was a few months back, and I remember seeing fertility stone, and I thought, oh my god, that's unusual.
Yeah.
But then you think of Newgrange, and what was it known as, the fertility cult,
Yeah.
and I was like, what is going on here? So there's like this real mad link between this madness for like reproduction of some kind. But they say if you step on the stone and you like hear a cry, it means that you are the High King.
Oh my god.
Okay, so
that's so cool.
And each cry represented a descendant of the Khans that would be a High King. So if you were to stand, touch a stone, and hear the cry, that would mean that you're a descendant of a High King.
Oh my god.
Okay, I don't know if anyone knows that, but I thought it was really cool.
I want to go and do that now.
So he stood on Leafall, the Stone of Destiny, which is the other name of it, said to cry out for a true king when he entered in Tara, and it was said that that never happened. But Khan was granted Tara by Lug, the good god, and Lug instructed the beautiful goddess Maeve, and we know of goddess Maeve.
Yeah.
It's kind of like all these other deities or deities. You've got Bridget. You've got Mary Magdalene was actually considered one if I'm not mistaken. There's so many, and in fact there's actually a shop out in the Tara, friend of mine, Courtney Davis, and he does beautiful illustrations of all of these like gorgeous places that, not places, even just women and men and the history of Irish mythology, and illustrates some of these gorgeous artwork pieces, even has his own cards. Guys, you have to go and see his stuff, it's incredible.
You definitely have to. There is some of it in the shop, isn't there?
There is, we have our cards actually, and we have the pictures dotted around just as my little way of protection around the little Misty Hollows. But Maeve, anyway, whom he proclaimed was the sovereignty, thank you, of Ireland. So to serve Con a drink of ale for her vat. So Lug then instructed her to offer each of Con's successors a drink from her vat until the day of judgment. So then there's St. Bridget's Day, like we were saying, is a rising sun, so it's a really important day when we have the last sun of the summer, because we all go out there for the summer solstice. It's just the setting of the sacred site. Then there's also the rising sun, which is during Imbolc, and that is to represent the power of Bridget on the Hill of Tara. But it also aligns with the Hills Mount Hostages. So again, it's very much like the Passage Tomb in Newgrange, that when the winter solstice comes in, it lights up this tomb. Same with this, the rising sun aligns with this as well. And then again, that fertility stone as well is another thing that I just thought was really interesting, because it does represent back to the organ in Newgrange, but then we also have the fertility cult in Newgrange. I just think there's a massive tie with all of these sites in Meath in particular, and then obviously you're after telling me there's an alignment there.
With the other ones. We
know of like St. Patrick coming to the Hill of Tara and lighting the fires. Like there's so much more history there with the Hill of Tara.
He also did them on the Hill of Slane as well.
Yeah, that's right. But he would have been there, and like that's why there's a church there in the Hill of Tara to mark his walk there. Like that he.
I think there was also a shield and a gig on one of the walls of the old church, I think.
Okay.
I remember seeing something posted, and I think it was the church at the Hill of Tara.
Yeah, it's just filled with it. But again, like for me now, when I go there, it's just a different vibe. I feel like I connect to the roots that were there for some reason. So I must stand on that stone and see
if you're hiking.
Because I never heard that story until I
never heard that either.
And I never got a tour of the Hill of Tara. Like my dad used to bring me out when I was a little girl, and we used to go nearly every few Sundays throughout the year. And he'd tell me the stories to help me remember, and he was always about the years and the history and the Vikings, but I never heard of the story of the stone.
You definitely need to get your dad on for an episode.
Oh god,
that'd be so interesting.
Yeah, I think he'd be down for that.
I'd love that.
I think he'd be down for that. That could be our next guest. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that's all I have from the Tara. So
that's amazing.
I think that's all for this week's episode of the Misty Rambles. As always, thank you for tuning in again, and you can expect another episode next Friday.
Yeah.
Send us on what you think about what we talked about this week, and if you enjoyed it, and to be sure to like and share with our Spotify. We've got our Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime. It is Amazon
Music.
Amazon Music.
Google Play and YouTube.
And I suppose it's just something that we were really interested today was actually sharing like our love for Irish history. So I hope you have a fabulous day and weekend. And thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.